then I wouldn't have to be so loud. Apparently there is a private party happening in the Liverpool bar. We were not told about that, so it's probably not a good idea to go afterwards there after the meetup. But we have another option. Arturus, can I confirm? So we can just go to left bar. It's also quite far, quite close. If you want to stick around, if you want kind of to continue conversation later, just go there after this talk. All right. So, interestingly enough, many people did stay. That's unusual. So this is going to be technical. All right, I'm just saying, this is going to be very technical. There are a few things that we learned along the way. How many of you have heard of HTTP 2 at this point? Okay, who hasn't heard about it yet? Okay, so HTTP 2 is a kind of a new protocol which came out from Google as a predecessor of HTTP 2 being speedy. And it has become now the standard. In fact, most websites or most users on your site are very likely to be using a browser that is actually running over HTTP 2. So approximately a year ago or so, this is where the story starts, approximately a year ago, I decided to have a little Christmas project. It was a very bad idea, if I look back now. And the project was to kind of move to HTTP 2 during Christmas time. That was a really bad idea, I would never do it again. But it's a different story. But if you're looking for something like mysterious and adventurous, this is probably a way to go. Because I thought, at this point, that was not a big deal. If you think about it, moving to HTTP 2 is not supposed to be a big deal. It's like, if you're running over HTTP, you have to run over HTTPS, we'll get to it in a second, and then you have to, make some configurations here and there on the server, and you're pretty much done. Well, all right, so let's see how it went. Now, first of all, we have to go back in time. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with this. Can we make it this loud? I think that, not so loud. Okay. Sorry, I have to tune it up. I think that most of you are familiar with this, right? Yeah. Do you know the speed? Here, can you spot the speed? What speed it was?
38.6.
Are you sure? Okay, it's not important, but it's really interesting. There are people like you, just a bit crazier, because there are some people in the world who are spending their evenings, both on Fridays and Saturdays, doing this as a side project, trying to take a signal from a modem and trying to pick up this kind of decode what exactly is happening in this signal, right? This is like one sound a week. If you are this kind of person, you really have to get life. Seriously. But there are people who are doing this, so this is like what's happening behind the scenes, right? Where you kind of two modems talking, and I don't know how long you've been around on the web or before the web. I remember vividly when I was using this kind of thing in early mornings because the connection was better. And how many of you remember built-in board systems, BBS? Only a few people who are willing to admit it. Most people don't. And FiberNet and all this stuff. But this is remarkable. This is remarkable because the time when this was a big thing before internet is the time when this came up. Right, the HTTP was invented at the time, which was pre-internet, right? And then it was renewed in 1999, in June 1999, with HTTP 1.1, which is actually the protocol that we're still using today. It's almost a miracle that the protocol which was invented, or kind of refined 16 to 17 years ago, still works flawlessly, given that internet connection today is so different. This is kind of remarkable. It's like, this is really unusual for any technology of any kind. But we're still running, well, we're running over HTTP 1.1. And if you look at HTTP 1.1, it's a nice protocol because it's standard to the test of time. But at the same time, it has some issues which were not resolved because the internet has changed, or not the internet has changed. The way we interact with technology, with networks and stuff, changed a lot. So at this point, in HTTP 1.1 world, we have one single request per connection. We have a maximum of 10 connections per domain, although most browsers will accept only 6 connections per domain. We also have exclusively client-initiated requests, uncompressed headers, redundant headers, optional data compression, which is kind of a shame, and HTTP is slow, but HTTPS is even slower. So all of this makes HTTP 1.1 not very lucrative. But if you look into what's happening behind the scenes in the stack, in HTTP stack, while the connection has been initiated, well, we'll go through 5 stages, basically, right? Where initially we have the initial DNS lookup, so whenever you request this page from the server, this is what's going to happen in the browser. DNS lookup is going to happen first, then we're going to initiate the TCP connection, Then we're going to look up if we have HTTPS running. Then we're going to have SSL TLS negotiation. Then we're going to have the time to first byte when the server actually responds. And then finally we're going to download content. And only after all of this happened, we're going to display content. And if something goes wrong in any of the steps, then we might have issues displaying the content. And this might take time, right? So this might take quite a lot of time actually. So if you have a mobile phone like this, like the one I left somewhere, like this, right? You might think that's not a big deal. Well, we're connected to Wi-Fi, we're connected to 3G or 4G, and the connection just starts. Well, it's kind of a big deal because here we have the phone. It has this phone when you initiate the connection, it has to find the tower. Then you have a control plane latency. This is the time that it takes for the tower to respond. Then you also need to go for the internet routing latency. You might have CDNs, ISPs, proxies, caches, and things like that. And then eventually you also get to internal latency, just firewalls, load balancers, servers, and so on, to decide what's happening on the other side. So all of this, if you're looking into a pretty decent connection in a pretty decent country, which has a pretty decent coverage, might account for approximately 600 milliseconds on 3G of latency alone, right? A delay when nothing happens and there is no byte getting through the network. That's a lot of time, like 0.6 seconds lost already there. And the main problem that we have with latency is that we have a head of line blocking. When the protocol was invented at the time, there was this kind of traditional view that, when you request an image, well, the server is going to send an image, and then you're requesting something else, and the server is going to serve something else. So you're kind of requesting something, and then you have to wait until this request has been resolved, and then you're requesting something else. And of course, they made it better over time. So in the beginning, it was just one request. And at the time of being now, with the HTTP1, we have like 6 connections per request, per domain, right? And this brought us something really interesting, which is kind of weird. It brought us a lot of hacks. All of these hacks, concatenation, we say we have all of these fancy JavaScript libraries, all these fancy JavaScript things, and then we're going to concatenate everything, so we're going to have only one request instead of 5 or 6. Or we're going to use sprite. Instead of sending only one icon, we're going to send a big image sprite with all the different icons in it, and then we're going to crop that image that we need. Why? Because we want to save an HTTP request. Or these kind of things, where we have domain sharding, we know that only one per domain can get at most 6, or if you're lucky, in a fancy, super fancy browser, you're going to get 10 connections. But then we want to have multiple many connections at the same time. So we're going to have things like C3, C1, C2, C4, C5, and so on configured. So we're going to have multiple connections at the same time. And then we also have hacks like inlining, where we're just going to inline the code and put it all in the code so we avoid HTTP requests. So HTTP requests have been this really massive issue, massive headache that has been slowing us down and also kind of making our entire development process quite weird and slow and ugly as well. So, of course, Google wants to make the world a better place, so they decided to make some research and figure out how they can make the world a better place. And for them, it was important to look into how we can make the internet faster for most people in the world. And what they found out quite quickly is that even if you all here, and if you or anyone else, had a really tremendous connection, like 10G, I'm not talking about 4G, but 10G, like really, really good high-speed mobile connection, well, at some point, the improvement in terms of page load time would be on the minimum. We would not get to really high speed still. However, we can definitely get to really high page load times, low page load times, if we actually reduce latency. So of course, because they decided to make a change and they decided to introduce a new protocol, which was called Speedy, and then has become a predecessor of HTTP2, which is now kind of a big thing and supported pretty much everywhere consistently except who Internet Explorer. But it's a different story. So HTTP2 is a wonderful, shiny new world, right? It's great. So remember, like 1 year ago, I'm sitting waiting for my Christmas project, and I'm reading all these articles saying that HTTP2 is amazing and awesome. And then Google, of course, came up with these fantastic statistics, like 64% reduction in page load times just by switching from HTTP1 to HTTP2. Sounds amazing, right? And it's still pretty good and decent on mobile, a 24% increase in no time, right? So that's incredible. And then you have an unlimited number of total requests per connection. So we had only 6 per connection, as I showed before, and now we have whatever, as many as you like. In theory, right? Of course, in most times, you're lucky if you can push more than 100 connections per simultaneously. But this is still better than 6, obviously, right? That's pretty cool. We have a quicker, slow start and better compression in general. That's great. One important thing that's really, really a major issue, major feature, is that you have only one connection per host which handles everything. So you don't have to worry too much about HTTP requests, because basically you initiate a connection once, then you have packages flowing back and forth without having to go to the server every time and fetch requests, fetch files and stuff. That's pretty cool. We can also, as developers, prioritize resources and push resources. We can say, hey, you requested index.html, but I know that my users, or the users of the site are going to need whatever, CSS.css or so. So I'm going to push it to the client, even though the client doesn't request it. That's pretty good, that's pretty decent. And also if some libraries or some JavaScript or anything, or some CSS files are more important than others, we can also say, hey, this is important, please fetch it first with a high priority. And be consistently sure that they are going to be fetched faster. That's pretty cool. There is one big catch, which is a major problem for most companies out there. Browsers require the protocol to run over HTTPS, which means if you're running over HTTP, you need to create this TLS layer, HTTPS layer, well, encrypted layer, to use HTTP 2. Now that's really interesting, because if you look into the stats, like, for example, caniuse.com, and we check for HTTP 2 support, what we'll find out is actually really well supported, right? And that's very nice, but all of them come up with a little footnote. Okay, turn off my mail. Come up with a little footnote, 2 and 4, running over HTTPS. Only supports HTTP 2 over TLS. Only supports HTTP 2 over TLS. Only supports HTTP 2 over TLS. Why the hell would they do that? Now all of them have this little footnote. All of them. All implementations in modern browsers are running over HTTP or over TLS. TLS being the secure layer living on top of HTTP. Why? Have any idea why? If you look into the HTTP2 spec, which is a fantastic reading material for Friday evenings, you will find something really interesting. They do not even require HTTPS at all. They don't even care. It's just a major definition or description, a specification of the protocol, which does not require HTTPS or TLS or anything of that kind. Why is it all running over HTTPS? That's a question I asked myself, and I couldn't find an answer for a long time, until I talked to somebody who actually was part of designing the spec. It was really interesting, because actually the only reason why we have to run over HTTPS is because when they started testing HTTP2, and I started sending hundreds of requests, simultaneous requests, for all kind of servers and stuff, major proxies, major antivirus software, major basic infrastructure, the entire thing that supports the internet was alarming. Like, what the hell are you trying to do here? Do you want to send 100 requests? You know what? I'm going to block you. And I'm going to mark you as spam. So I'm not going to allow it to happen. But what the hell is happening here? But the only reason why they couldn't do it is because all this infrastructure that we have that supports the internet was not ready for it. And of course, for Google it was a really big decision, because I mean, if you do not enforce the HTTPS, you might end up with some traffic just being blocked. And of course it will take, I don't know, dozens of years until every single antivirus software and every single firewall and every single server is going to actually support HTTP2 fully. Right? So in order to kind of circumvent it, they decided to run an HTTPS layer, so all of these firewalls and antivirus software will not even touch it, right? So it was secure. And they could do all this thing without any issues. But this causes, of course, a major issue for us, because if we want to run HTTP2 or use HTTP2 and using all of these fancy, advantages, we need to run HTTPS. The good news, though, is that HTTP2 is an extension of HTTP1. So if the user uses a browser that does not support HTTP2, they will be still accepting the content and getting the content via HTTP1, right? And if you look into the waterfall, this is what it's going to look like. This is what the difference is. So in HTTP1, you have this kind of really clear distinction where you have 6 requests and then they're finished, and then you have 6 other requests, and so on and so forth. While in HTTP2 world, there's this nice fancy waterfall where all the requests are coming together simultaneously, which is nice. And when I saw this, I thought, this is really cool. So why don't we just give it a try? And then, if you look into the protocol, of course, you need both server-side and client-side implementations. And in fact, there are good implementations both in Apache and Nginx and server-side, and also in browsers, right, as you saw just now. And Facebook, of all companies, of course, is running over HTTP2, and it's very, very slow. And I'm wondering how slow they would have been if they were not running over HTTPS, or over HTTP2. This page alone, which is a community group page, has 366 HTTP requests, and it takes 18.09 seconds to fully load. On HTTP2, on HTTP1, it would be maybe 30 seconds or so. So for them, it was more like a necessity to do it rather than actually, fun. And of course, it's indeed being used by many companies like Gmail and WordPress and Facebook and Twitter. I thought, we're not worse than them. We can do this. This should not be a big deal. Especially given that, it should not be a big deal. And then somebody, when I looked through this list, and then somebody sent me a link to this. And I said, huh. So we switched to HTTP2, and it's just going to get 2 times faster. Let's do this. But of course, you have to understand that HTTP2 is not as simple. There are some things which kind of make it a little bit more difficult to control. And there is one major issue which nobody is talking about, which we kind of discovered really, really hard way. And this has to deal with some of the specifics of the protocol. So this is going to be a bit technical for the next 3 minutes or so, but then we'll actually move back from there. So there are 3 important things in HTTP2. One of them is multiplexing, the other one is prioritization, and the last one is server push. So the way the protocol works is it actually works in streams with frames. So basically the small streams that we send through the network, the small streams of communication, which are being carried are called frames. These frames together create this kind of message, which is a complete sequence of frames that map to a logical HTTP message, such as a request, right? Now if you have multiple messages, then you have a stream. The stream is this kind of flow where messages and message containing frames kind of flowing left and right, from the server to the client, from the client to the server, and so on and so forth, right? The multiplexing means that we have really distinct frames. We have different kinds of frames. We have headers frames, and we have data frames. While in HTTP1, we pretty much have everything like mixed together. Here you have really separate, nice distinction between headers and data, right? And the frames, of course, have more things, which are really strictly specified, so there is no way out. Which is nice. If you want to deliver a package from A to B, you know exactly what's going to happen, right? So when you talk about streams, this is what it's going to look like, right? So basically you have really mixed things, where headers and content frames are kind of coming together, mixing, right, in one stream all the way. So you don't really have to wait, because it's all kind of coming back and forth all the time. And this is why you might have found this analogy in the past. How many of you have seen this before? Right, so this, sorry? Yes, so this is not the case, this analogy. So an analogy is when HTTP1, you just have a request, a start request, it goes all the way until it's finished, and then something is sent back. That request is being sent. All complete requests are being sent this way. While in the HTTP2 world, you have data packages, you have these content frames, and you can have multiple files kind of intermixed. That's why you have this kind of weird thingy where everything is mixed. What most people don't say is that this is not quite right? Because in reality, what you end up having is this. And this is an important thing, because imagine what happens if you're running on a slow connection, or you're running on a connection which is not perfect by any chance, by some chance, and something is wrong in your network. Then pretty much everything is going to be wrong. Well, if you have 6 simultaneous requests, and they're kind of independent, and they're responsible for every single file, they're more resilient to this kind of thing happening. So you might not see some images, but you will see some content. Well, because here everything is mixed, you will have issues seeing a full picture. And this was a big problem, because if you look into again HTTP1, we have this one request, it's kind of a mix of different slides. I didn't manage to prepare everything in time. So we have like this HTTP1 world, we're sending a request, we're getting a response. This HTTP1 world in the right now, where we have like 6 connections per domain. This is again our HTTP2 world, and these are all waterfalls again, right? Just to revisit. So, and these are all the fantastic things that we have to keep in mind. But then, if you test it in real life, all of this together, you'll find out that sometimes HTTP2 is going to win, and sometimes HTTP1 is going to win. So, have you heard of PLR? Basically, packet loss rate. So when packets get lost, and they do get lost quite a lot, in most cases HTTP1 is going to win. If you have a really stable connection, like the same here, we have a decent Wi-Fi, or if you have like a good 4G connection, then of course HTTP2 is going to be better. But whenever the moment when you start moving, for example, in a train, or when you start having issues with the connection, HTTP1 is going to win. So here's the timing measured for 3 different things for the same website. Right? So we have here document complete time, here we have the start render time, and here we have speed index, which is the value coming from web page test and performance metrics. So what you find out is if you have a really decent connection where you don't have any packet loss rate at all, like 0%, in that case HTTP2 is more likely to win. But if you have some issues with the connection, or you have any kind of packet loss, good luck with that. So you might not have, HTTP2 still wins and it's still better in many ways, right? But the higher the rate is, the worse the worse the result will be. With other words, if you're targeting a specific audience which may not have a really great connection, right? Then you might have to think twice about how exactly you're moving. You might need to have HTTP2 built for the perfect case, and you might want to have an HTTP1 built for for people in this region, right? And if you actually test it more, then you'll find out that this is not something that just comes up in one single page or one single site. If you just take several websites, I think 6 websites that tested at the same time, from different media, different regions, then you'll find out still clearly that HTTP2 performs better if you don't have packet loss, and performs worse if you do have packet loss. Right? In fact, HTTP1 is actually better in that case. Now you might ask yourself, okay, so what does it mean for us? Well, if you look at the packet loss rate in the real world, you'll find out that approximately this, up to 20% of all requests, might have up to 2% packet loss rate. It's kind of a big deal. But of course, Google decided to make the world a better place, but they're working on a new protocol, which is going to be more not protocol, feature that is going to upgrade HTTP2. And it's called Quick, and I'm sure that most of you have never heard of it because it's kind of happening behind the scenes, but this is going to make things better because of this problem of packet loss. Right? This is problem number 1. Problem number 2 is prioritization. You might ask yourself, that's great. Okay, so we as designers and developers can say, we're going to set priorities on that resource and we're going to ask that resource to be delivered faster than others. And because this is what we used to have with delay, and this is what we end up having, if we say in HTTP2 world. Well, you can do this and you can set certain IDs, but it's not really well supported. I'm yet to find a server that really well manages this kind of priorities. So sometimes you will have weird delays, sometimes you will have kind of weird things happening where all of a sudden that thing that's not prioritized will not be properly pushed, will be pushed, while the thing that is supposed to be pushed will not be prioritized. But one thing that does work here is the header compression HPAC, because it's really designed in a different way than it is in HTTP1 world. Right? So normally, again, in HTTP1 world, we have all these headers and we're going to send them. In HTTP2 world, we have 2 kinds of headers. We have static headers and dynamic headers. Static headers are basically a table, very much like this, which is already pre-written and is also incorporated from the server side. So instead of saying, I don't know, max forwards or range or refer to the server, instead you're just referring to that point in the table, so you don't have to send it. Of course, you're saving a little bit of bytes. That's great. And there are many fancy articles, and I really have to laugh when I see this. When they say, well, we moved to HTTP2 and we improved header compression and header traffic by decreasing it by 60%. Yes, you're sending maybe 2 kilobyte of header data. You'd improve from 2 kilobyte to 1.2 kilobyte. Good for you, right? Yeah, this is like, you'll see articles like this, and I get that. That's kind of an important thing if you have many people coming to the site over and over and over again, right? Then they will not have to download all these data headers all the time. And you have to keep in mind that if you move to HTTP2, HPAC is for free, right? You can just use it. It will save a little bit of things, but it's not significant change. The problem is that this table, the dynamic table, can be at most 4 kilobyte in size. Now, these are all headers that Vitaly is sending, and this alone is 2.2 kilobyte, right? And you need to make sure that everything fits in this 4 kilobyte, depending on how many things you want to do in your header pack. This is going to be enough now, but this is still pretty good, right? And then the last thing is push, right? With push, it's kind of nice because you can say, well, I'm going to send something to the client, although they haven't requested it yet. So they're requesting only index.html. I'm going to send them index.html, but also something else, because I can. The thing is, some clients might refuse to take it in, right? Sometimes you also might end up with some delay. But one major issue is, again, something that nobody's talking about. If you don't have any push, this is the first view. You're getting a request, right? And you have a couple of CSS files and a couple of images. You put them in the cache, so on the next visit you basically have only PHP request, right? So you don't have any push here, any server push. With server push, with HTTP2, you're getting this push from the server, and it's getting indeed quite quickly. But then on the next visit, this stuff is not going to be in the cache. So you're going to push it again, right? And then you're going to push it again. And every single time, although the things are supposed to be in the cache, they will not be in the cache because you're pushing it. Now the problem is, once the browser already pushed this data, you can of course refuse it and say, hey, I don't need it, I have it in the cache. Yes, but this data will still be pushed to the network. It will still kind of delay the rendering, right? So that's kind of a problem. You need some kind of a signal that the client can send to the server saying that, hey, I don't need this file, don't push it over to me, don't waste the network, I got it already in the cache. But we don't have it properly yet. And again, this is something that Google is working on as well. So you end up with more data set in the network, although it's actually not necessary at all, right? Again, this is another problem that nobody's talking about. But if you look into the browser support for all these features, you'll find out that browser support is actually pretty decent. On the server side, it's also pretty decent. Some CDNs actually starting to support it. That's nice. You also find a Google App Engine now supporting it as well. Some others. There's a nice website. This one, is it fast? Is TLS fast yet? Where they kind of collect and highlight all the data about HTTP2 support, like really in details, which is kind of nice, right? Okay, so these are the problems we have not encountered. So if we look again back into the problems that we ran into, we thought, okay, so what are we going to do now? I mean, all of this sounds still, whether we need server push or not, what are we going to do now? What does it mean for our deployment? Well, there are many different ways of how you can deploy. One thing that worked really well for us, and if you're coming from AMD world or Require.js or anything of that kind, this will probably be familiar to you. When you say, okay, I'm going to have a Scout.js file or anything.js file in my HTML, and in that file I'm going to define all the dependencies, right? So I'm going to refer to specific files that I need, right? And if I make a change, I'm going to make a change in Scout.js, so all of my files, all my HTML files are going to stay in sync. I don't have to kind of regenerate them all the time. So whenever I want to push one single change, I'm just going to make this change in this file, and eventually the Scout is going to trigger the download of that file. Right? That's nice. And of course, you need to make sure it's highly cacheable, and so it will prompt changes to this SS to take effect quickly. And of course, in order for that to work, the Scout file needs to have a short cache time, so browsers can always touch it. Right? And if there is an update, they will actually eventually trigger an update as well. Again, why a Scout approach? Well, you can deploy changes in your CSS and JavaScript without requiring a redeploy of all HTML pages. There is no need to re-download HTML. Which is kind of nice, right? Okay, so that's cool, but what does it mean again in the HTTP2 world? Because in the HTTP2 requests are cheap. So we're taking many small files, many big files, and we concatenate, and we compress. What do we do? Well, we can use this Scout approach with many small files. And that's really interesting, because what you're going to see now is going to look really weird. And to some degree, it's not valid HTML. But that's really interesting, because for performance, to optimize for performance, you need to make one significant change. So in the past, we used to do this. So when we're sending CSS files, we're going to combine everything and minify everything and send it as a link, right? We kind of made a change. We said, well, at this point, performance really matters, so we're going to have this critical CSS. I don't know if you've heard of critical. How many of you heard of critical CSS? Right, so this is pretty much what we are doing as well. So on Smashing, if you go to the magazine and you go into the core code, you'll find this monster. This is the critical CSS. Why are we doing this? For performance, right? Because if we actually have right here in the header, the browser doesn't have to go to HTTP, to the server and produce another HTTP request. They can actually get the styles right away without the new round trip, which is nice. So we started doing this for a while, for the last year or so. And so you basically define, okay, if the browser doesn't, if the user doesn't have a cookie yet for the full file, I'm going to send the critical CSS styles, and then I'm going to request these files, the full CSS file synchronously, put it in the cache, and set the cookie so the next visit or the next visit, I don't need to download this full critical CSS styles. Now, however, if you have something like varnish or any kind of heavy caching, you have to figure out a trade-off, because do you actually include this critical CSS all the time in your cache or not? All right, this is what you have to figure out. And then we moved away from this, which was a bit hacky actually, to this.